This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are you doing today on this Friday? It's the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. We're a proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network. You can always find us at BamaCentral on X, at Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated on Facebook, or at BamaCentral SI on Instagram. We're a proud part of the Sports Illustrated Network, covering your Alabama Crimson Tide. Man, what a week it's been. And first, I want to thank you guys for bearing with us. I missed the last 2 days. First, one day for travel. And the second day, I was down for the count. I might have went a little bit too hard in Phoenix this past weekend, and I really was a little bit under the weather yesterday. So I apologize. I missed you yesterday. It was very, very busy. So we're going to have hopefully a catch-up show or rundown show. We're going to get with the last couple of days of news, and we're going to talk about this weekend's A-Day affair. But first, you can always subscribe to the show, again, at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon, the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. And you can find me on any social media machine that you like, at Joe Gaither 6. You can send me your comment, question, query, and complaint. So with all that being said, I apologize. You can probably hear it in my voice. It's a little bit weaker than it is, but we're going to fight through it and have a fun Friday because it's a huge weekend. One, it's Masters weekend, and that's not even on my notes, but I hope that you all get some time, spend some time with your family, at least maybe carve some time out on Sunday to watch the final round. That's what I'll be doing. But today's show is going to be what? Alabama basketball aftermath and A-Day setup. We've had 2 days worth of kind of news and notes, transfer portal, guys going into the portal from the Alabama basketball side of things. What? 2 scholarship guys and a walk-on. We love you, Max Charnowski, but we're not going to spend too much time on you. Hope you find a great home, Max. We'll talk about Rylan Griffen. We'll talk about Rylan Griffen and Chris Parker, the 2 scholarship guys who have gone into the transfer portal. We'll talk about Kentucky's finalizing on Mark Pope. We'll talk about some options for Nate Oates in the transfer portal and in the recruiting world. And then we'll flip it to football. You guys can jump in, please. We'll join in with the football side of things and on the basketball side of things, but we're going to talk about A-Day. I'm going to complain a little bit about the format, and then we're going to play a little game. Who are the top 5 players you're most excited to see for this year's A-Day? I've got my list of 5 guys. You can give me your list of 5 guys in the comments at Joe Gaither 6 on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And then we got a couple honorable mentions. And lastly, we're going to talk about what you're going to see out of the quarterbacks for A-Day. So that's going to be the rundown for today. I apologize for missing you on Wednesday for travel, on Thursday because I was down for the count, sleeping, really a lot of drainage coming out of my nose. You don't want to hear anything about that. Let's get going on Alabama basketball. First things first, Nate Oates is officially in the clear. I know on Monday night, Coach Oates puts out the statement that I'm staying at Alabama, I'm committed to Alabama, but that's really before the Kentucky coaching search got off the rails. And you can say, Joe, it didn't get off the rails. Mitch Barnhart had it under control the entire time, and that's kind of subjective for sure, but it seemed like 2 days ago at least Scott Drew, once Scott Drew withdrew his name from consideration, it seemed like the Kentucky coaching search was a little bit on the verge of getting out of control. And when Scott Drew turned him down or withdrew his name from consideration, I thought, oh boy, well, I know that Nate Oates said what he said on Monday, but here we are. What was that, on Thursday or Wednesday? That was Wednesday, midday Wednesday. Yeah, my days are running together with the travel and with the day that I kind of was under the weather. I think that was Wednesday that Scott Drew withdrew his name. So I'm thinking, oh boy, I know what Nate said a couple of days ago, but I wonder if Mitch Barnhart is going to go back to Nate Oates and make it very, very tough on him to say no. Fortunately, from the Alabama standpoint, they go up to UConn, and they lay basically a king's ransom at Dan Hurley. And Dan Hurley says, no, I'm comfortable here at UConn. We're going to try to go for a three-peat, and my wife loves it here. So instead, Kentucky hires Mark Pope, BYU head coach. And right off the bat, my initial gut reaction is, ha, 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 ha. But I don't think that that's actually fair. And I don't think that's actually a good reaction. And I think that sets up ourselves from the Alabama contingent in a maybe not so good way. Yeah, Mark Pope doesn't have any NCAA tournament wins. And yeah, he's been at BYU and Utah State. So he doesn't have a great resume or great, not a whole lot of gold stars on his resume. But 1996 national champion with the Kentucky Wildcats, you can see why they end up going back to the family and really, trying to maybe reconnect with the core of the program per se. All right, you see it from a sentimental standpoint, maybe a little positive. And does it feel like Mike Shula? I can see how those comparisons were made. But then you look at Mark Pope and you look at his offenses and you look at the way that he game plans and prepares, and maybe you contrast it with the largest complaints about John Calipari over the last couple of years. It's, he's not game planning. He doesn't have these guys prepared. The attention to detail is not really there with John Calipari anymore. Yeah, he's a great recruiter, but these guys are not getting better during the 12 months that they're here in Lexington before they go one and done. Okay, Mark Pope addresses all of that. These guys he's prepared. He's putting out good offenses, and he's got good game plans. And really, BYU was a place that you shouldn't have really won at. He got them to the NCAA tournament this year. I think it's going to be a sneaky good hire for the Kentucky fan base. And I know the Kentucky fan base was losing their minds last night. That was entertaining to observe from the X machine, from Twitter. And yeah, you love that. That's part of the coaching searches that I just enjoy following people's reactions. But I think that a couple years from now, Mark Pope's going to have Kentucky in a real good place, and they're going to feel real good about that decision. Do I think it's going to get them to Final Four status again? I have no idea. Look, I think that Nate is a much better coach. I think that really it's going to depend on the NIL and the recruiting. Reportedly, he's got about $4 million pledged to him already for NIL. And if you're Kentucky and you're recruiting with $4 million in your back pocket, I think that's going to go very, very well for you. It still kind of remains to be seen what will happen with these class of 2024 signees, Boogie Fland, and a lot of these guys. Some of these Kentucky guys are getting let out of their national letter of intent. So big fluctuation time at Kentucky and at Arkansas. But the real point for us as Alabama, covering Alabama here with BamaCentral and just following them as a whole, is that Nate Oates is officially everything's locked down. You don't have to worry about it anymore. With Kentucky settled on Mark Pope. You could say settled or chose Mark Pope, but Nate Oates is officially, he said what he said on Monday, but things could always change until Kentucky kind of settles on their guy. And so that really put everything to bed late last night, early this morning, with Mark Pope getting tabbed as the new head coach at Kentucky. What I'm interested to see is what happens with Reed Sheppard. Reed Sheppard kind of flirting with the one and done situation. And obviously, the 96 team, he and his father were teammates, were allegedly roommates. So apparently they've already had conversations about Reed coming back to Kentucky. And I'll tell you what, just as a basketball observer, I would love to see Reed Sheppard one more time in the SEC. Hopefully, I don't know what the schedules have for Alabama next year, but is Kentucky coming to Coleman Coliseum? That would be a lot of fun. I know Alabama went to Rupp Arena this past year, so maybe Kentucky we'll come back to Coleman and we can see Reed Sheppard in person. But real notes and real news for Alabama basketball. Obviously, the Nate Oates stuff was just speculation, was just anxiety, was just what if, who knows? We're worried. But real news over the last couple of days. One, Max Czarnowski goes into the transfer portal. We saw that I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. And we wish him great success and great luck. Walk on for this program, and hopefully he goes and gets picked up, uses his last year of college in a place where he can play, a place where he can get on the court. Max was a pleasure to talk to in the locker rooms this past season. The couple times where we got to talk to him, always open and always candid. Appreciate his time that he gave me. All right, but for the real news and the real notes. First scholarship player goes into the transfer portal was Chris Parker. That was what? We were back by then. So that was Wednesday. Chris Parker goes into the transfer portal, and I think you could see this coming a mile away, right? I know that when we did our Sunday wrap-up show, and you can look at that on all the podcast platforms we've already mentioned, we kind of highlighted who we thought was staying and who we thought was going. And I had Chris Parker in my, I think he might stay, but all the evidence was there for him to leave. You put out the practice highlight tape at the end of the year, you're basically saying, hey, guys, I'm going into the transfer portal. And we got to talk to Chris just a little bit after the Final Four loss, and he said, I haven't really thought about it. But then 48 hours later, he's the first scholarship player into the portal. And I kind of, look, do I think, here's my stance on anybody who's going to go in the portal from Alabama's standpoint. Do I wish you'd come back just from keep the Final Four team together, keep a chemistry and development standpoint together? Yes, I do. But I want to take a step back, and I'm not going to get upset about anybody who's going into the portal. After last year, when you lost Amari Burnett and you lost JQ to the portal, you lost guys that you didn't want to lose. I mean, Charles Bediako to the G League or NBA. You also want to, like, after last year and Nate Oates' recovery, going into the transfer portal, pulling guys like Aaron Estrada, pulling guys like Latrell Wrightsell and like Grant Nelson, like basically constructing a roster on the fly. And honestly, they were good enough to win the whole to win the league. And were they, a big man away from maybe beating UConn? Yeah, sure. After everything that Nate Oates did, 12 months ago, I guess 11, 9, 10 months ago in the summer period, rebuilding the team, I'm not going to worry about anybody going to the portal. So Chris Parker, is he a talented guy? Would he help this Alabama basketball team next season? Probably so. Is he a talented guy? Absolutely. Was he tearing it up during the practice footage that we got to see at the open practice? 2 Tuesdays ago? Yeah, he was tearing it up. And he looks like a long-wing defender who could fit into this program. But I'm not going to sit here and cry because Nate Oates has proven that he's able to, okay, Chris Parker, thanks for your year. Have a great time. Go to the portal, wherever you find yourself. Awesome. He's going to go in the portal and get somebody just as good or better. So that brings us to our second guy, and that's Rylan Griffen. Rylan Griffen goes into the transfer portal last night. And the Alabama Twitter world kind of has a bit of a mixed reaction meltdown. And Rylan Griffen, look, if you've been following Rylan, you got the mixed messages. Oh, Nate Oates is the GOAT. He's going to win a national championship. And then 3 weeks later, he goes into the transfer portal. But if you've been following Rylan at all, last summer or last spring, he was a candidate to go in the portal as well. He's getting tampering offers from schools, out there in Texas that Rylan ignored. This year, maybe I think some of those tampering offers were a little bit harder to ignore. Now, would Rylan potentially be a starter on this team next year, just like he started several games this past year? Yes, he would. But is that a guarantee? No, because Nate Oates is going to go out into the transfer portal and he's going to recruit his tail off and try to get the best players and the best fit that he can. I think it presents a very tough balance from both the player and the coaching standpoint. The player standpoint is, am I going to get recruited over? I know I had a good season for Alabama basketball. I know I'm one of the best defenders on this current roster, but coach is about to go look for a bunch better defenders, and I know I'm a good shooter, but will my minutes reduce next season? It's a hard balance to say, am I in the right place? Can I beat out transfer portal A, B, or C player that's going to come into this roster? Will I be able to beat out two of the McDonald's fives? I mean, obviously they don't play in the same position, but you're all competing for minutes. And so it's kind of it's a very tough balance. And so Rylan chooses to go to the transfer portal. I think that you're going to see him end up at Kansas or at Baylor, maybe SMU or Texas A&M. I think it's kind of between those four schools, and you're talking big money NIL. And look, if you're an Alabama fan, does it stink because you loved Rylan Griffen? Sure, absolutely. Does it stink because I think he really embodied a lot of this team coming together this season? Sure, absolutely. And I think he does really love Coach Nate Oates. But think about it. Alabama basketball is not on the blue blood tier as much as you'd like to be there. And as much as the path is, 50 years from now, if Nate Oates continues, you never know. Obviously, you got to win a national championship first. But think about it, who's in this class right here. Kansas is poking around after Rylan Griffen. Look, if you're going to lose one of your better players, you may as well lose him to a program like a Kansas, to a program like a UConn, like a Duke, like a North Carolina. Look, if you're going to lose him to Kansas, you say good luck in the Big Ten, go dominate in Fog Allen Fieldhouse, and Obviously, your path to the NBA is pretty straightforward here at Alabama, but at Kansas, it's even more straightforward. And I think that there's a lot to be gained. Look, do I love watching the Alabama Crimson Tide and supporting that program? Sure. But I know the prestige at Kansas is a good bit higher, is a lot higher. And so if they're offering them a lot more money, and there's a lot more prestige to be had there, and maybe there's a little bit more of a guarantee of playing time, it's hard to blame Rylan Griffen for jumping into the transfer portal. But as we said, the portal can take away, but Nate Oates is going to go out and get some of the best players that he can. You've seen Nate Oates already reach out to several players in the transfer portal, and I just want to talk about two guys that I think, one, Alabama's going to get, but I think it's also going to help the team. First, you've got lots of people on Twitter following people or keeping track of who Alabama's contacted. I'm just going to read off several. Cliff Amori, oh gosh, I heard it earlier. Amori. There you go. Amori. Jordan Sears is off the board now. Jordan Sears committed to LSU, the guard from UT Martin. Colby Rogers from Wichita State. Jason Rivera-Torres from Vanderbilt. Marcus Hill from Bowling Green. Kerry Booth from Notre Dame. And Chris Youngblood from South Florida. All right, so there's several guys that Alabama has officially reached out to and contacted. And you've seen Omar Ballo from Arizona as well. Omar Ballo doesn't seem like he's going to make his way to Tuscaloosa. And that's all right. There's some big men out there that I think will help Alabama just as much. People are watching this year's team. They say, oh, you get one good defender. You get one big man. It's going to change everything. But how about you get two big men, Nato? It's like we said earlier, you've got at least 4 roster spots to play with. Yes, if you're looking at the roster right now, you say, Joe, how can you say that? Oh, these guys haven't said if they're coming or going. I'm just kind of using an educated guess. I do think Muhammad Wagi is going to jump in the transfer portal here before the end of the weekend. I think Nick Pringle is going to join him. I'll be surprised. You never know what's going to happen with Grant Nelson and Mark Sears. I think you're going to open up at least 4 spots. And so with those 4 spots, I think you've got one guy who's coming to Tuscaloosa this weekend who it's kind of imperative to go ahead and secure. Chris Youngblood is a wing player, small forward player out of South Florida. And really, you talk about losing Rylan Griffen and boo-hoo-hoo, it stinks so bad because you love him and you've gotten to know him. But Chris Youngblood as a player seems like very, very similar player. 6'4", 6'4". He's averaging 15 points or so for South Florida. Oh, let me just type it in there because I had it earlier as I was scratching things up. Yeah, 15 points a game, 2 rebounds and 2 assists. This man is a scorer, really. 41% from 3 this past season for South Florida. He spent 3 years at Kennesaw State, and really interesting connection. He's from Tuscaloosa. Now he moved to Georgia before his high school days, so he never really played a whole lot here in Tuscaloosa, but born in Tuscaloosa. And while you fret over losing Rylan just because of the sentimental value, sure, Chris Youngblood's going to be a player that if he steps in there, he's going to be he's going to be 6'4". He's going to give you some length on the perimeter, and he gives you a lot of shooting, and he's going to be able to attack the basket. Look, is it a one-for-one comparison? No, but it just goes to show kind of as an example that, the portal taketh, the portal giveth. Nate Oates is going to go out and get some really good players. Another big man that I think has been really rumored for Alabama is this guy, Cliff Amori out of Rutgers. He's Nigerian. He's going into his last year of eligibility. And my man's is 6'11", 240 pounds, averaging 10 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 3 blocks, nearly 3 blocks a game. So you're asking for a rim protector. You're asking for a rim runner. You're asking for somebody who's going to get up and rebound. This is your guy. And I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of if these whispers keep continuing to attach him to Alabama, because I would be very, very excited about Clifford Amori out of Rutgers. So it kind of sounded like it was either going to be Omar Ballo or Amori. And it sounds like Malo is not out of the race, so everybody's kind of shoving all in on Clifford Amore. One name that hasn't been linked directly to Alabama yet, but I would be surprised if it's not in the near future. Now, I think this guy's going to command a pretty good NIL deal, and maybe that puts Alabama out of his price range or puts Alabama off of his radar. But I would like to see Alabama at least go out and give a call to Jonas Adu. Jonas Adu jumps in the transfer portal out of Tennessee, midday yesterday? I'm sorry, as I said, all my days are running together with the travel and a little bit under the weather. But Jonas Adu goes to the transfer portal, yesterday, Thursday or Wednesday? 6'11", out of Tennessee. And this man, 6'11", 240, so very similar size to Cliff Amore, and he can flat out play. 11 points a game, 7 rebounds right here in the SEC. He's experienced 3 years in the SEC, and look, he gave Alabama the business when he played against the Crimson Tide. Let me see. Let me pull his game logs because he played Alabama twice. Alabama 12 points. 12.7 rebounds in the game in Tuscaloosa and 19 points. Yeah, that's what I thought. 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 blocks in the game up there in Knoxville. So, I would love to see you go out and pull Cliff Amore and Jonas Adu, and then you end up with maybe another guard. I think that Nate Oates is going to do just fine. Everybody worried about Rylan Griffen and worried about Chris Parker and worried about what might happen with Mark Sears and Grant Nelson. I understand that from a sentimental value. And these guys, what they did for Alabama this season, I don't want to say we'll never be matched because hopefully it will be matched, but it's historic. It's historic, and it should hold a special place in your heart and in history. But I would caution you to be so attached because that's just the way that college athletics is now. Rylan Griffen has himself a real good tournament run, capitalizes on it maybe with a big old NIL deal with the University of Kansas, and Alabama, unfortunately, might have a little bit of a reality check that while you're still on the rise and in the national conversation for top programs, there still is a little bit of a perception gap between the Alabamas and the Kansases of the world. If he goes to Kansas, you say, that just is what it is, and you wish him well right there. And you're going to trust Nate Oates to recruit as best he can and operate in the transfer portal just as he did last year. There's no evidence to say Alabama should be worried about anything at this point. You're still worried about, or you're still not worried, but you're still watching for decisions. Mohamed Diabate, Sam Walters, Jaron Stevenson, lots of guys still. The future's up in the air. And we'll see and we'll follow it right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com. One more little tidbit. One more guy I'd like is not a transfer portal player, but is a class of 2024 player. My man's Liam McNeely out of Montverde Academy in Florida. 5-star player, number 3 player in the state of Florida, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. He's the number 15 player overall, according to the same rankings metric. 6'7", 210 pounds. And my man's was committed to Indiana, right? Indiana. And Liam McNeely got out of his national letter of intent, and he's still out there. Sounds like McNeely's been doing a lot of talking with Alabama. And this is look, I know you loved Sam Walters last year because, white boy who couldn't shoot, and I think he's Sam Walters souped up. He's super Sam Walters. I think he's a much better player than Sam Walters was at this point last year. And so if Alabama, you're in on a guy like Liam McNeely, another 5-star player. You add him to this recruiting class. You bring in 3 5-star players, Liam McNeely, Darian Reed, and Aiden Sherrill. It just shows you how much this Final Four run, I think this Final Four run has really supplemented the recruiting game for Nate Oates. I think Nate was always in a lot of these conversations with a lot of these players because of his system and because of his ability to get guys into the NBA draft. But you take Alabama on a Final Four run, and not only are you in these conversations, but you're in the middle of a lot of these conversations. It sounds like Liam McNeely is sitting here like, I just decommitted from Indiana. I'm either going to choose between Alabama and UConn. It kind of seems like it's his two choices. If you lose them to UConn and Dan Hurley, you say, tough bleep, and that just is what it is. But hey, You could come away with a third 5-star in this recruiting class. And how nasty and amazing would that be for Nate Oates and this Alabama basketball program? With all that said, I just want to just point out just how tough this balance is. Does Nate Oates go all in on Liam McNeely? Or does he go all in on getting Grant Nelson or Mark Sears back? Or do you go into the transfer portal and try to re-recruit Rylan Griffen back? Or do you go into the portal and you say, oh, we need Cliff Amori and Joni Sadu. Oh, we need Chris Youngba. Like, all these options and possibilities make this such a delicate game. Not just for Nate Oates. We're talking from an Alabama perspective just because we live right next to the stadium and live right next to the program and we work for BamaCentral.com. But this is the same balance that's going on literally everywhere across the country. The transfer portal's opened up. We're evaluating our rosters. Do I like little Billy? Billy Baller, he played well this year, averaged 5 points a game. Will Billy Baller, raise his 3-point percentage 5% in the offseason? Or should I go into the transfer portal and get somebody better and say, Billy Baller, you got to go to a new program? Like, I just think it's a very unfair, honestly. And I hate it's unfair. Life is unfair. But it's just not right. It's not right for the players to have to be watching over their back. Oh my gosh, is coach going to recruit over me? I mean, yeah, you should be working hard anyways. And you should be trying to maximize your own value and be better for yourself. But I don't know that it's right for the players to have to be looking over their shoulders the whole time while they're doing that. And I don't know that it's right for the coaches to have to be saying, oh, do I love Billy Baller on my own team? Or am I really intrigued by, whoever else, Sammy Superstar on another team and try to get him in? It's a mesh of personalities that you've got to work with, skill sets that you've got to work with. It's just an extremely delicate game. And I think it's really just a huge challenge for these coaches and for these programs. And so if you are following Alabama and you're following Nate Oates and you're seeing Alabama in the tournament for the 4 consecutive years, and yeah, you're worried about Rylan, you're worried about guys going to the portal, Nate has shown you that he can hook. He's worth every bit of the extension that he got in this past off season. In the SEC tournament over the next couple of years. He's been able to handle the balance. And while Rylan's in the portal, and that really, from a sentimental standpoint stinks, it's going to be A-okay from a talent standpoint. I trust Coach Oates to go out and build the best roster possible. All right, let's put basketball to bed for a bit because it is a big day for Alabama. It's a big weekend for Alabama. If you are wanting some real on-field action, what is it? Alabama baseball is taking on the number 1 team in the country this weekend. They're taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Is that right, or did I just make that up? They're taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Last time I saw, they were ranked number 1. Yeah, they are ranked number 1. First game is tonight at 6 o'clock. Then it's going to be Saturday at 5 and Sunday at 1. So there's some real action this weekend while you're in Tuscaloosa to celebrate practice. A lot of you are coming to Tuscaloosa for practice, and I don't blame you. It's going to be a lot of fun. 8A is Saturday, but it's only practice. And here I go. I'm going to complain not about 8A because I was interested. I sort of am interested in 8A. And last year I was interested in 8A as well. With all the changes, with no Bryce Young and no Will Anderson and the coordinator changes. This year I'm more interested in 8A just because of the new coaches and really to see how the schemes play out. But I am a little bit going to complain to you guys, and you can let me know how you think 8A is going to go this year in the comments section at Joe Gaither 6 on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. This year, Coach Kalen DeBoer announces there will be no more Team Crimson versus Team White. Well, it will be Crimson versus White, but it won't be first offense and second defense versus first defense and second offense. It won't be a real scrimmage. It won't be a real game. Team Crimson will be defense as they are at the practice field, and Team White will be offense as they are in the Malmore facility for the practice field. It's going to be offense versus defense. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Just from an aesthetic standpoint, I hate it. just from an aesthetic standpoint, watching the game, I hate it. You're going to use using special scoring systems for defense. You're going to be, rewarding the offense. Of course, I don't know. Are they going to reward offense for special sequences, first downs, where you get points for the offense? Will you get points for, explosive plays? Or will it only be when you get to the end zone or when you kick field goals? I don't know. But my biggest complaint is it's not real football. It's not real football. Okay, Joe, obviously it's spring football, so it's not real football anyways. But when you give points to the defense for, hey, you get 2 points for every sack. You get 2 points for every tackle for a loss. You get 4 points for every interception. You get 1 point for every pass breakup, whatever you want to do. You're going to attribute points for statistics, essentially. What you have happened, and look, people will deny this, but this is what happens. What happens is, let's say I'm the defensive end. Let's say, I'm the defensive end. I've got to have outside leverage on this play, and I'm going to, run my play outside leverage. When I see that I can give up my outside leverage, get inside, and get a sack for 2 points for my defense, a lot of what I think will happen is a lot of true technique will be sacrificed for scoring plays. Or, I'm supposed to play, whatever coverage here, but I know that this route is it's not real. And granted, it's spring football, so it's not real anyways. But I just worry about guys on the defensive side of the ball, particularly, giving up some of their defined assignment in order to kind of improvise, in order to headhunt. Troy Polamalu, they always talked about Polamalu. He never ran the play as called. He always had a feel for the game. And look, he's one in a million. He's one in a million players that could do that. I want this new Alabama defense, this new Kane Womack defense, this new Swarm defense. Look, you're in the brand new baby stages. Do I like Deontay Lawson and Jihad Campbell? Yeah, and I do think they're instinctual players. Absolutely. So you want them to play with their instincts, for sure. Same with Malachi Moore. Great players, instinctual players. But you're in the base blocks. You're in the building blocks. You are building a foundation of this Alabama defense. And look, might this complaint be overblown? I recognize that. It might be overblown. But my nitpickiness says, oh my gosh, I would rather them just play football, try to get off the field in 3 downs. Just play football, try to get off the field in play assignment football. And look, will it probably work out just fine on 8A and we're all going to go home happy, hunky-dory? Wow, that team looks good. They're going to be national champions. Sure, that's probably what's going to happen. But I see it's going to be offense versus defense, and I wonder about just trying to get a true simulation of a game, trying to get a true simulation of a scrimmage. And maybe I shouldn't want that because Coach Kalen DeBoer yesterday during his press conference said that, no, this will be just like the 15th practice. So maybe they're just throwing the scoring element in there just to appease the fans and appease me and appease you, just to allow us to follow along and kind of gauge who's doing what and how good people are doing or how bad people are doing. Maybe it's all going to mean nothing. But anyways, 8A is going to be tomorrow, and I hope you're going to come to Tuscaloosa. We're going to cover all of it. We're going to cover the captain's ceremony over at the Walk of Champions and over at Denny Chimes. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to cover everything at BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. I'll be there. My friend Blake Byler, my friend Katie Wyndham. We'll have Will Miller and Matthew Gibson as well. The entire BamaCentral crew will be covering all things 8A. And so while I just think it's still kind of a little bit of hokiness because you're 145 days away from real football, I do think it's going to be a lot of fun, and so I will get into the spirit of it tomorrow and start and try to find some meaningful moments or some meaningful things to take from it for fall camp. One thing I did think about as I'm doing some prep work is, look, 8A is about individuals. 8A is not necessarily, oh man, the offense looks better than the defense. Everything's going to be vanilla. But you do want to see guys make plays, and you are going to be excited about players you haven't seen before. Look, is Jalen Milroe going to look fine? Yeah, he's probably going to dump the ball off 12 times and hand the ball off another 12. They're probably not going to ask a whole lot out of Jalen Milroe. You're probably not going to ask a whole lot out of a lot of the veteran guys, Tyler Booker and Jaden Roberts. I mean, Jaden Roberts, you haven't really got an update since last week's scrimmage where he twisted his ankle. You're not really I don't know. I don't think it's going to, I don't really think 8A is a day for the veterans. So I was thinking, I was like, okay, who are the top 5 players that I want to see at 8A? Come on, Joe. Let's get excited about it. Let's get in the spirit. It's going to be 8A. You're going to be there anyways. We got to make a silver lining. So who are you excited about, Joe? And I wrote out 5, 6, 7, 8 names. I wrote 8 names for my top 5. And I'll go 5-1. You can give me your 5-1 or maybe just your one player you're looking forward to most to see in 8A right there in the comments at Joe Gaither 6 on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. But here we go. I'm going to go 5-1. Here's the 5 players that I'm most excited about seeing tomorrow in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Number 5, Richard Young. Okay, so I wrote down Justice Haynes, but here's the deal. I think we all know that Justice Haynes is a bad mother bleeper. I think we know that Justice Haynes can carry the rock. And I think we're all excited about what Justice Haynes and Jam Miller as well, don't want to leave him out, will do for this offense. But Richard Young was a 5-star player as well. And Richard Young out of Florida, Coach Saban last year kept every time Richard Young was brought up. Oh, he enrolled in the summer, so he's a little behind. Oh, he's enrolled in the summer, so he's a little behind. He said that the whole year, even through November. He enrolled in the summer, he's a little behind. And so, okay, let's see Richard Young and that 5-star talent. Did we get to see him a couple of times during practice footage? Sure, absolutely. I want to see him when the lights are on. I want to see him. Like, look, I think that Jam Miller and Justice Haynes are going to be a heck of a 1-2 punch. Yeah. But what will Richard Young do? How will he carve out a role for himself in this offense? Or will he have a good 8A and then on Monday go in the transfer portal? You don't know. Yeah, I think Richard Young is a great question mark, and maybe some of these questions about Richard, maybe his role in the future of the offense, his capability of carrying the football. Is he? I mean, he can catch. I've seen him catch a couple passes out of the backfield, but how will he really operate? How will he really fit in this offense? Richard Young is my number 5 player. Now, my number 4 player, I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of him, but I have Austin Mack. Look, we'll talk about quarterbacks here in just a minute, but I don't care about Ty Simpson and I don't care about Jalen Milroe's performance tomorrow. I mean, don't stink up the joint, but I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into, oh, this guy threw 90% of his passes for 400 yards. Like, just don't be awful. Just don't be awful, and everything's going to be okay. I will talk about quarterbacks in just a moment. But I'm curious about Austin Mack. I want to say, look, the couple times that we were out there at practice, he's taller than everyone out there. He's taller than literally everyone out there. And so he sees the field. I mean, obviously, rumors and reports suggest that last week in the scrimmage he struggled, but he was clearly brought to Tuscaloosa handpicked by the staff because they see something in him. They believe in him. He early enrolled last year. He reclassified last year. So really, this should be his real true freshman year. So I'd like to see what Austin Mack can do. So he's my number 4 player. My number 3 player is James Brockermeyer. Oh my gosh. Who would have thought center at Alabama over the last 12 months would become one of the most talked about positions, but it became that way because of Seth McLaughlin and his errant snaps. Seth transfers to Ohio State. We wish him well. You hope that it turns out great for him there. But the big question becomes, how do you replace a center that really couldn't snap the football? Oh, the only default option is James Brockermeyer. And then you go out and get Parker Brailsford, who's become another story all in and of itself. And I don't really want to dwell on Parker Brailsford, and I really don't want to slam on the kid because, look, I've had tough times in transition as well. I absolutely have. And in transitions anywhere in life are not easy. But why James Brockermeyer is my number 3 is because, look, whatever happens with Parker Brailsford, Coach Kalen DeBoer says that he's not. He doesn't think he's going to transfer. That he's going to join the team soon. He says, "Oh, I don't think he's going to be participating in 8A, but he's going to be joining the team." Okay, great. You take that for what it is. But let's just pretend, worst case scenario, Parker Brailsford does go in the transfer portal. You got to know. You have to find out. You have to get with it and really get to the depths of James Brockermeyer. Can James Brockermeyer be your starting center? Because while Parker last year started for the Joe Moore winning offensive line and played well in the Pac-12, and maybe he does work out some of the struggles that he's dealing with off the field, and we absolutely hope that for him, whether he plays for Alabama or not, honestly. But if he works that out and takes the starting role and excels, okay, great. You've got a second team All Pac-12 center, and that might end up being a pretty good option for you. But if he's not available, if these kind of off the field hangups hinder him from being available or being effective, you've got to find out about James Brockermeyer. Your man James Brockermeyer was the kind of throw-in, was kind of the additive. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Everybody wanted Tommy Brockermeyer, the five-star offensive tackle who is now retired and out of football. James is the prospect who stuck it out here at the Capstone. He didn't transfer to TCU like his brother, and he's worked in, I think he's got some honors program, an honors college that he's really worked out a great academic degree. I think he's on the path to finishing that here at Alabama. So, James, let's see how this work has paid off. This is your moment, man. I know that spring practice, I poo-pooed on it a good bit, and I still do. But I think James Brockermeyer can take a huge step for himself right here with a good spring finale. You hold up against the Tim Keenans of the world. You hold up against the Damon Paynes of the world, the guys that you're going to see on the other side. I think that you could take a huge step forward. And look, does it matter if the fan base is confident in you or not? No. All that matters is if you, James Brockermeyer, are confident in yourself, and Chris Kapilovich and Kalen DeBoer and the rest of the team is confident in you. But I think that you can show them this weekend that they have something in you with a good performance. And people have been talking very nicely about you through spring camp. Let's see how it pays off tomorrow in Bryant Denny Stadium. I am very curious about James Brockermeyer and his performance. So he is my number 3 player. My number 2 player is really just personal satisfaction. I want to see Keon Keeley. I want to see this big old beast playing really with his hand in the dirt and seeing what he's going to look like in this new defense. Keon Keeley, 5-star player. He's got the Will Anderson number, and they say that he's been doing very, very well. But I want to see it for my own 2 eyes. I think that he's an athletic specimen, and every time that I've gotten to speak to him on or off the record, he's been very, very kind and respectful. He seems like a kid who's doing things the right way. Obviously, redshirted last year. You never saw him a single snap last year. And so I'm very, very excited and interested to see Keon Keeley get some live action reps. And the last one, my number 1, and again, you can let me know who your top 5 players, who you're most excited about seeing for 8A tomorrow, right there in the comment section at Joe Gaither 6. My number 1 player is Red Morgan. You're thinking, oh, who the heck is that? Red Morgan was 3-star, 4-star safety out of Central Phoenix City and has seemingly taken one of the safety roles. Look, it's a 4-2-5. You're going to have 5 guys in the back end, 3 safeties, and it sounds like it's Keon Sapp, Malachi Moore, and Red Morgan. And you think, oh, true freshman earning the job. I mean, Red Morgan has been on the team since December 15, 18, early enrolling. My man's has now, granted, some of it is, oh boy, you got some depth issues, but Devontae Smith still exists. I'm impressed. Everything I've heard about Red Morgan is heavy hitter, mature player, knows his assignment, very fast and athletic. Okay, so what else do you want? Give him some experience. Throw him out there on 8A. Let him get some live reps. Hopefully somebody burns his ass so that he learns from it. Not that it's going to be a bad thing, but so that he learns from it and thinks about it all summer long. Oh, Jeremy Bernard got me. Oh, Kendrick Law got me. Hopefully somebody gets him, in my opinion, so that it keeps that hunger in his spirit, in his soul. I really have heard good things about Red Morgan, and I'm excited about seeing him. And I'll roll my eyes at this, but somebody, I cannot remember who the quote was. One of the players recently, he looks like Caleb Downs. And I'm going to say, pump the brakes. But maybe he will, and we'll see it tomorrow. Alabama 8A, Red Morgan. I got 3 guys that are on my honorable mention list. I almost put them in there. It's Justice Haynes, Jeremy Bernard, and Xavier Brown. Justice Haynes, we hit on just a little bit. I'm just because he's an exciting player, just because he's fun to watch run the football. But I think that Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, I think you probably figured out that he can run the football by the time you're at spring practice number 15. I think maybe you're going to see a good bit more of Richard Young and the young man from Mississippi. Oh my gosh, escaping my brain. Run the football on Saturday. I think you might see a little less of Justice Haynes. But shoot, any Justice Haynes carries will be a lot of fun. I want to see Jeremy Bernard, but I don't know how healthy he is. I want to see Jeremy Bernard just because, look, he's a mystery man out of Washington. I want to see how he does. I just don't know how healthy he is, and so I don't know how much we will see him on Saturday. And lastly, Xavier Brown has been a player who's been mentioned a lot like Red Morgan as a freshman who is taking to the defensive backfield very, very well. You look in the cornerback room, and it's kind of a desperate situation. Let's all be honest with ourselves. It's not really – it doesn't look good from an experience standpoint. You got Damani Jackson and you got Jaleel Hurley. Damani Jackson, the only corner in the room that has any college experience. And so Xavier Brown out of California has been getting a lot of, positive publicity. I'd like to see how he plays on Saturday. People say, he's a gamer and he's really, really come to Tuscaloosa prepared to play. Yesterday, Kalen DeBoer saying cornerback, defensive back, and offensive line are two areas that the Alabama Crimson Tide are going to go into the transfer portal looking next week. But maybe Xavier Brown can make them rethink that with a strong performance in 8A on Saturday. I don't think he can, because I think just from a number standpoint and an experience standpoint, you've got to go get a corner in the transfer portal, and then you've got to go get maybe a swing tackle or a versatile offensive lineman who can kind of fill in wherever. It's gonna be really fun, really interesting to see how Alabama attacks the transfer portal when it opens up on Monday. So that's gonna be 8A on Saturday. And I got one more topic with football. And you might not like this, but that's okay. I got one more topic with football, and it's about 8A, and it's about the transfer portal, and it's about really the coming up fall. 146 days until Alabama kicks off against Western Kentucky. And there have been whispers, there have been conversations that Ty Simpson is playing better this spring right now than Jalen Milroe. I think that's perfectly valid. And I think that is what you're hearing is probably not inaccurate at all. That Ty Simpson's been pushing the ball down the field, been playing very well, and doing good things for this Alabama offense. And this is not a negative thing on Ty Simpson. Not at all. Not one bit. But I want to caution you, if you are paying attention to this Alabama football program, if you are a fan, or if you're just somebody who just likes football in general, I want to caution you about maybe whatever happens on Saturday. Let's just say that Jalen Milroe goes 6 of 9 for 78 yards and a touchdown. Everything's underneath, and, he's in there for a little bit of time. Look, the 8A stats don't matter. They don't matter. They do not matter at all. This is all going to be, as Coach Kalen DeBoer said, practice. You can have Ty Simpson go, 10 of 15 for 215 yards, give him 2 touchdowns, and look really, really good. In 146 days, I promise you, Jalen Milroe is your starting quarterback. I promise you that Jalen Milroe is literally the leader for this team. And Kalen DeBoer has to, no matter what happens tomorrow at 8A, no matter who looks good in the offense and who looks bad in the offense, how well the offense performs or not, this is Jalen Milroe's football team. And if you want to say, okay, Ty Simpson is the better passer or more polished passer or his reading defense is better, I think some of that can be true. But I think I'd really caution you about saying Ty Simpson should be the starting quarterback for this team. How many times did Nick Saban say, who wins over the team? That's who's going to get the job. Who wins the team? That's who's going to be the leader. That's who's going to get the job. And frankly, to be honest with you, Jalen Milroe has the team. It's Jalen's team. That's who it is. That's what it is, what it is. And you could talk about quarterback controversy after 8A tomorrow if you want to. You could talk about, Ty Simpson threw for 330 yards and Jalen Milroe only threw for 170, whatever the case may be. It could be heavily skewed in Ty Simpson's favor. It can be. And it's still Jalen Milroe's team. Because I think that if you are Kalen DeBoer and you're trying to stir up a quarterback controversy based on results in spring or based on, everybody got a clean slate and Ty Simpson had a better spring than Jalen Milroe, I think you're going to be really, really struggling for some buy-in with the rest of the team, the other 83 scholarship players. I think you're going to have some real struggle with some buy-in. Now, look, does that mean it's going to be Jalen's job all, 12 games next year? No. If Jalen comes out and doesn't operate the offense very well against Western Kentucky and goes up to Wisconsin and struggles, then yes, you will have conversations on your hand. And I think that will open the door for Kalen DeBoer to say, okay, maybe we do consider Ty Simpson, or maybe we do consider Dylan Lonergan or Austin Mack on down the line based on who's playing well. But for now, no matter what happens tomorrow, if Ty Simpson looks 10 times better than Jalen Milroe, I don't think it matters at all. It's Jalen Milroe's team. And Jalen Milroe is going to have to play very poorly under live action lights to lose the confidence of his teammates, in my opinion. You heard how many players, how many of the teammates right after Saban retires, DeBoer comes, and everybody's deciding their fate. Oh, I'm staying because Jalen Milroe is staying. You just know that he's the leader. And if you're Kalen DeBoer, you say, you know what? I'm going to figure out an offense. I'm going to call an offense. I'm going to scheme my offense. I'm going to tailor my offense around Jalen Milroe's skill sets. That way, we're 12 games through the season. Everybody's still buying in Jalen Milroe, and we're rocking and rolling into the playoff. I do think that Jalen Milroe has the skill sets, has enough skills to utilize. I mean, we saw it last year. Was the offense amazing? No, but it still operated pretty fairly. I mean, operated pretty okay. I think if you are to make some tweaks and continue to call things and tailor things to Jalen Milroe's skill sets, Alabama's offense is going to be just fine. So no matter what happens at 8-8 tomorrow, whether Jalen Milroe looks really, really good or really, really bad, whether Ty Simpson looks really, really good or really, really bad, you're not going to have a quarterback controversy. So I would encourage you, don't buy into one, don't get yourself sucked into one, and don't let yourself be fooled to think that this isn't Jalen Milroe's football team. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow, covering 8-A. We're going to be there for BamaCentral on BamaCentral.com. We're going to be there early at Denny Chimes, covering the captain's ceremony and getting your Walk of Champions, literally all kinds of aspects for 8-A tomorrow at BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. I want to encourage you guys to follow the BamaCentral YouTube channel. That's where my show goes every single day, but it's also where we put all our press conferences, all our interviews, all our behind-the-scenes stuff, and we'll have a lot of video going on to the BamaCentral YouTube channel tomorrow. That's going to do it for my show today. I'm going to get out of here. I once again thank everybody for giving me a little bit of reprieve. I was under the weather yesterday, and we were traveling Wednesday. I appreciate everybody who's told a friend about the show. You can always subscribe to Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon.